Hello, everyone. This is your host, Too Clever Mafia, and you are listening once again to the Too Clever Mafia podcast. Hello, AJ. Hello, Mafians out there listening. Hello, new listeners. Welcome, welcome. And we've got a great show for everyone out there today. And this is a sequel, if you will want to call it that, to our hot caffeine story that we did quite a while back that everyone kind of really enjoyed. So we're going to release another one. This one's called American Slices, Divide, Conquer, Repeat. This is another story I wrote quite a while ago and kind of tweaked it over the years and wanted to bring it all to everybody today. So we're going to sit back. You're going to relax. I'm going to give you a little summary of what the chapters are going to be about. So the first chapter is going to be basically it goes on about how the political parties actually separate America. And the second chapter is mostly about the cultural divide that politics, in my opinion, create. Along with there's a chapter about America today. There's another chapter we're going to go over about the big city versus big town, which is a fun chapter. So this is all part of a book. Not even going to tell you when it was published, that I had published a long time ago. And we're going to just kind of go over the summary of it instead of you having to read the whole book. If you like it, you can go out and find it. I don't even know if it's for sale anymore. Matter of fact, I don't even know if my publisher's even in business anymore.
That's horrible.
I think it was some sort of crime racket he was involved in. But
really?
Anyway, yeah, I think so, AJ. So sit back, relax. We're going to start with good old chapter 1 after this short break. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the podcast that you're listening to. We really do appreciate that. And check us out on all our social medias at Tooclevermafia and over on our website, www.tooclevermafia.com. And get some snacks. We will be right back after this and dive right into American Slices, Divide, Conquer, and Repeat. Well, hello, everyone out there. You are listening to the Too Clever Mafia podcast, and I am your host, Too Clever Mafia, and we are back again. Hello, AJ, over in the sound booth. How are you today?
Good morning.
Well, good morning to you, AJ, and how was your weekend?
Same old, same old.
Oh, okay. Well, not too much excitement these days with nothing going on since we can't go anywhere or do anything.
Uh-huh.
But we're going to jump right in here to chapter 1 of American Slices, Divide, Conquer, and Repeat. And chapter 1 is all about how the political parties separate America. Or the question really is, do the political parties separate America? So I guess we'll start off by, there's three major, if you want to call three major. I think there's two and then one not so major, like a minor party in America, right? You have your Democrats, your Republicans, and then your independents. And then there's a slew of others. They never really get enough votes to be counted in most places, although there is a significant amount of people that do vote, and percentage-wise, millions of people that don't vote for the traditional Democrat or Republican Party. So we'll get to that in a moment, but there is a lot of talk about these days about everybody coming together. You know, of course, everybody wants to be united, but only if I feel only if you're on their team. You know, they talk about uniting us, but if you have their beliefs and you're willing to do what they say when they say to do it, then they want unity. And you know, are we supposed to be understanding, or are we supposed to be dismissive, or if we're unapologetic or just not interested, we're not a member of their party, and the parties would rather not have us because we are, we'll go against the rank and file. So I feel that if we were able to get rid of the party concept and come up with other ways, I mean, this is modern America, folks, and I feel it would be simple. or it should be simple with all of the technology that we have. I mean, even with my knowledge, I mean, I call myself a medium tech guy where, I'm not high tech, I'm medium tech. I'm not low tech. I'm not, I'm not in that class, but I'm definitely medium tech. And with my knowledge, I mean, to create a system where we can log on to our computers or our phones and vote, why is that so challenging? I mean, American Idol can do a vote, and you can only, all of these different, uh, what is it, Publishers Clearinghouse and HGTV. Mrs. Mafia is very big in that. HGTV, they know how they give you 3 or 4 votes, so you can vote twice a day or whatever it is, and that's it. They cut you off. You're not allowed to vote again. So if they, why can't the American government figure out a way to make it so it's secure? Everybody's vote counts, one time, and do it in a way that's more convenient and more modern compared to the archaic way. Now, there is something to be said about the vintage way or the old way of doing things, but times have changed, and people, um, regardless of what you feel, how this previous election was handled, this the old way of doing things aren't necessarily as secure as the new way. I mean, just look at our currency, for example. If we still printed our currency the same way we did in the 60s and 70s, more than half of our currency would be counterfeit. So we had to develop, because the technology was there and people could, and printers and whatnot, and they were able to counterfeit those funds. And so the government had to stay ahead of it. And even in some cases, famous cases, they've even hired criminals who were professional counterfeiters to go and, work for the government and make ways to secure our, I think it was our checks, and they use special print and then even our currency. So that way people can't use the new technology to counterfeit. So same with our elections. There's gotta be ways, and people can fake things and fraudulent, and I don't know. There just seem to be too many holes, and it's getting old and technology is getting better. And it's something that we need to fix. Why should the government of each state get electoral votes? That's my next thing. Why don't we use the popular vote? I mean, I know historically, and I know the reasons behind it, and most of my listeners, I would imagine, do. But why should the government of each state get an electoral votes? And they all do things differently by how they calculated the votes, and but the popular vote. And I read this somewhere a while ago. And the popular vote, the reason why our forefathers came up with the Electoral College was because the average citizen, they felt, wasn't smart enough and wasn't wise enough to choose their representative, their governors, or even their president. So, does anybody out there see anything wrong with this? I mean, the idea that we all have been sold is that, the politician's job is to represent us, to do what we want, to do our bidding, not make laws that they personally feel would get them some TV time or a handful of voters. And, that actually, those voters are probably the ones that actually call the public official's office and complain. And they're the ones that, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so to speak. But maybe it's time, and maybe this, in a way, is all by design and not a good design, or not in a good way. Maybe if they keep this divide, or they keep this, um, government tight knit with very little real public opinion, or they keep this divide, it creates more teams. Now, hear me out. It creates more teams, and by them creating more teams, uh, you know, obviously it's going to create winners and losers. I mean, that's just the nature of a team, right? You're playing on a team. Some win, some don't, some lose, and you're playing against others. But there's definitely more profit in it if there's more teams. I mean, look at sports, right? But there's definitely going to be more profit in it. And if we all want the same thing, there's no money in it. So they, by nature, it seems like they create these winners and losers, these different teams or different political parties or different candidates, which then divide the people because they go towards their candidate. Then, what if we all wanted a hamburger from McDonald's? If we all wanted a hamburger from just McDonald's, that's the only hamburger we liked. And sorry for the vegetarians out there, and, maybe fries or we don't even eat McDonald's. Who knows? It's just an analogy. But if we all wanted just hamburgers from McDonald's, Burger King and Wendy's and all the other In-N-Out Burger and all the other international food chains, they'd be out of business. It'd be no money for them. So you need to keep these separate teams, and each team tries to do a little bit to attract, if you think of the fast food restaurants analogy, which you have all the fast food chains, they all serve hamburgers.
Very interesting.
But they do just a little bit different. McDonald's has a double cheeseburger. There's no lettuce. So if you're a fan of lettuce, maybe you like Wendy's because they have lettuce on their double cheeseburger. Or maybe you like flame broiled and you go to Burger King. So they all, basically it's the same product. They're just spicing it up just enough to get that team, get that group of people to follow them, which the analogy obviously would be to follow this political party or representative or whoever it is. You need those teams. Or if you don't create a team, you don't create that controversy, then you're not, so it pays to divide America is what I'm getting at. If you look at it from a financial perspective, human beings love choice. We all love variety. It's understandable. We all like different things, but so they give us this variety. They give us this two-choice party, two parties to choose from, a this or that scenario, which is an old sales tactic for those of you who might have been in sales. You give them a this or that and you choose one, and people are generally mindless of it. You don't let them choose everything on the board because it just will take too long and to narrow it down. And some people are very indecisive. So you give them a this or that scenario, Republican or Democrat. The ones that really are undecided end up in the independent column, and hey, we don't need you right now unless you're closer to our side. It's like if you like lettuce, you're on our team. If you don't, it's fine. Go to McDonald's. I know it's a crazy analogy, right, AJ? It's the simplest way I thought this up. You can't really think of it any other way. You have to dumb this down because they keep it so complicated. They keep this process so complicated because if it wasn't, at the end of the day, it probably wouldn't be profitable. And let's face it, all our politicians, most of them, they're wearing the fancy brands. You know what I'm saying? They've got a lot of money. They've got a lot of money, and they're looking to spend it, and they want more of it. No matter which one you are, they start out poor and they end up rich when they retire if they are a politician. And if they start rich, they're just going to get richer. That's just how it works, folks. It's like a business, right? The big hamburger chains, they sit on every corner in every intersection of America. Not really, but you can't even see the mom and pop hamburger places. You don't even know where they are because they're in the shadows of these big mega conglomerate corporations and their huge signs. And they sit on a side street somewhere and they put a lot more care into it because it's their little mom and pop business and they want it to be the best that they can be. But eventually these shops and restaurants close as people make their choice. They're not choosing the independent. They're choosing the Republican or the Democrat, and some aren't choosing it all. But they, without even thinking about what they're actually doing sometimes. And the ones that do realize the combined results of their choices and the few compared to the masses who unknowingly are choosing that convenience over quality or the price, the cheap price over quality. And it's all about that in-your-face advertising. They're choosing that over the quality. All this big corporate money eventually ends up back in the hands, of the politicians who are shouting, vote for me, most of us are just compelled to do so. So whether that was about politics or fast food chains, I don't know. I think I started off talking about politics, and hopefully everybody was able to follow me there. But whether you choose Republican or Democrat, you're choosing that separation right there. You're choosing your team. And with that team comes that divide. So, the best you can hope for, and I've said this before, is 50% of the people like you. Other than that, it's a crapshoot. You're not going to have more than that. So, it goes back and forth depending on which poll you read and how accurate they are and how many people they called. They say the 100 people they called represent 300 plus million Americans, which doesn't always crack up to be that. But
Yep.
I don't know. Let me know what you think. Head over to our social medias, Twitter, Sound Off. We'd love to hear from you, Facebook, whether you agree or not. I love to wrap my head around some of this too. I mean, this is what I've come up with over the years, but just www.tooclevermafia.com. Like and subscribe to the podcast if you're listening to us. We're going to take a little break. We don't like these to run too long. And we're going to be back with the next chapter that was in the story was culture divide. That's a fun one. Right, AJ? Yeah, that's always a fun topic to go over. So we will be right back after this short break. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Too Clever Mafia podcast. I am your host, Too Clever Mafia. Hello, AJ, over in the sound booth. How are you today?
I'm fine.
That's great. And all my Mafians and everybody out there listening, hello and welcome back. We're in deep, right, AJ, with this new American Slices Divide and Conquer story. Divide, Conquer, Repeat. I'm sorry. And we are into chapter 2, Cultural Divide. Cultural Divide. And there's a lot to say about this, folks. And cultural divide, a lot of people say cultural divide is normal. I mean, instinctually, we want to be around people that are similar to ourselves. Which is, in my eyes, there's nothing wrong with that. And only people from your own town or your own city, they're the only ones that know how to do things right. You ever hear anybody say that? And,
Yep.
There's such a cultural differences between all of us, from everything from different foods to different hairstyles to clothing styles, and different languages, different religions, and different political and motivations, and everybody's different. So there's nothing wrong with that. And when those differences are forced on other people who don't want them, who it's not part of their culture. Is that right? I mean, that's the question. And I think that's when the trouble begins to start. I mean, look at Rome, okay? Look at the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire at one time, I mean, they owned most of the world, the populated world, not the United States, but, they marched their soldiers. I'm having trouble saying S's today, folks, so just bear with me. I got a sore lip. And but they marched their soldiers around from town to town, city to city, conquering them and calling them their own. They forced people into slavery. They forced people to believe in their religions, and all their gods and whatnot. And it took a while, but people eventually prevailed. And people want to do things their own way. They want to pray to their own gods or not pray at all without being oppressed or prosecuted or back then you were executed. But it's a great thing, though, to learn about all cultural beliefs, other religions. And the reason being is it builds your character. It builds your understanding of one another. And to not know, to be ignorant of ways of other cultures is it why not learn as much as you possibly can in the short time that you're on this earth about everything and anything. And it kind of, it will help you on your own journey, right? So they, when things are forced upon people who have no interest in doing things a different way, though, then even if it's not the norm or it's not popular, uh, it, it's, I think it's wrong. It's wrong to force people to try to see things your way. I mean, they have their right. I mean, you can debate, you can present, but to force people to do what you do, or automatically they're outcast, or automatically they're wrong, it's just it doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense as a human being to another human being just because you. And a lot of it has to do with a lack of understanding. You know, I've spoken to thousands of people, thousands of listeners over the years, thousands of different people who I've worked with or worked for or have worked for me. And over the years, and when I found a cultural belief or a belief of any kind for that matter that was different than mine, or I had no knowledge of a particular culture, I would ask. I would ask questions to learn. And I have learned so much because of my curiosity, and not because it was be forced upon me in school or by the government. It I was able to learn truths that I, they're just not published in books, and little cultural tidbits, I'll call them, that unless I immersed myself in that culture, I would not have learned them. Cultural divide is a lot like political divide, which is what we've been talking about. And people want to learn about other cultures and beliefs, uh, most people out of natural curiosity. And those who maintain an open mind will do so. However, from watching local news and cable news and national newspapers, which I try to avoid these days, to be honest with you, they're not, there's just so much inaccuracies, and it's not even, I shouldn't even say inaccuracies. There's so much of opinion. There's so much opinion. And you know what they say about opinion, right, AJ? No? Have you ever heard the saying about opinion? Opinions? No? Okay, well, they say opinions, cover your ears, little ones, if anybody is listening to my show that's under the age of, I guess, 13. But opinions are like buttholes, folks. Everybody's got one, and they're all stinky. And it's not something that, you know, you got to take with a grain of salt and move on. And what you need to do is search for the facts. You need to search for the facts. And, whether you're right or left or middle or wherever you stand politically, um, a lot of these headlines are again force that instant divide amongst people. And why? Why must you choose? Why can't you just take the information as a fact? Why do you have to be told, hey, you need to pay attention to this, and this is the way it is, and this is our feelings about it, and you need to feel the same way? Why is that necessary? On the news, a house burns down, right? A house is on fire. The news shows, hey, 44th Street, there was a house fire. It burned down. End of the news story. If there was injuries, maybe say the injuries. Don't broadcast the news and say, well, the whole neighborhood is sad, which is okay. They might be sad, but don't speculate that because Joe, the guy who lived in the house, was a fireman, that Joe should have known better and should have been able to put out the fire on his own, even though he was in the middle of the night sleep. Whatever the story is, it doesn't matter, folks. I mean, you see what I'm getting at here, and people can make their own choices and their own decisions based on the facts if they're presented to them. Don't present it in a way, and there's so, and it used to be a little bit of nuance. They used to kind of put it in there, give a grimace, make a facial expression. But now it's just flat out, hey, this is how I feel. I'm presenting you the news, and this is the way it is, and this is the opinion along with it. And it's I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right. And wasn't the news supposed to be the news, not opinions? Isn't the news supposed to not have any pre-constructed subliminal agenda baked into it? You know, I don't know. Wasn't that what the news was supposed to be? I mean, culturally in America, maybe it's time to segregate the news from facts. No more freedom of press or pretend, people out there pretending that news is being protected. If the news wants to be only facts, call it news. If they're only going to present the facts unbiased as the way they are, no, opinion, no speculation, none of that. Wrestling, the entertainment wrestling. There was something called the WWF. Okay. I remember from quite some time ago. And the old WWF, it was the World Wrestling Federation at the time. And from what I heard, well, I don't know if they're still around, who knows, but they had to change their name to WWE, which was World Wrestling Entertainment, right? And from what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, but from what I understand, they had to change their name in part because they weren't really a sport. It was entertainment. It was scripted and it was whatnot. And so they couldn't call themselves a sport. And they ultimately changed their name to World Wrestling Entertainment because that's what they were, entertainment. And all of the culture that has made this country so great, and we are proverbial melting pot, where once people came to this country to find streets paved with gold, I believe one day we will get back to its old glory. One day. But not until, we go out there and we don't allow people to tell us who we are, who we have to listen to, what we have to be. Learn as much about everyone else and everything else. But at the end of the day, as an American, we need to be who we are, stand behind it, not feel sorry for it, and, search out the facts and form our own opinions. We will be right back after this short break. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome, AJ. Welcome, listeners. How is everyone doing today? Hope everyone is doing just fine. Heading into the new year. Wow, this is what a 2020, right? It's been a crazy year. And I'm your host, Tooclevermafia. You're listening to the Tooclevermafia podcast, and hopefully we help pass the time a little bit for you, make things move a little bit quicker. We're going to talk today about Chapter 3 of our American Slices Divide and Conquer Repeat book story. And Chapter 3 is all about the state of America today. And the election was tough. It was tough. It was a nail biter on both sides. And we all hope there'll be a smooth transition of power, which has happened since the beginning of our country's history. And it's very, very likely that'll be the situation again this go around. But I believe America wants to be one strong nation. But at the end, there's so much greed, the corporate greed, and there's too many people out there that are just out for themselves with no regard to who or what gets destroyed in their path. When I say that, I mean the banks, investment groups, communication companies, media companies, and now all the social media companies. And once a company goes public on the stock exchange, it means they always must grow. They every quarter, every day over day, year over year, quarter over quarter, not in the right order, but you get the hint. They always have to show that growth to their stockholders, right? And they always got to show those improvements. However, not necessarily the improvements that the customer wants or their employees want. It's the improvement that they just need to produce more money, whatever the cost. And by firing people, that produces more keeps more money in the bank and produces more income because there's less money to go out to pay those folks. By downsizing, by outsourcing, all of that stuff puts more money and it produces more money. And at the end of the day, it's good. It can be good for the company's stock, but it's not good for people. It just isn't. It just isn't good for people. Not in the people that work for the company. It's just not. And again, I like to use sports analogies once in a while. And I have one here that I feel just simplifies the problem. And most sports teams have winning seasons and losing seasons. Some go a long time winning and some go a long time losing. And there's never been a team that I'm aware of, maybe that has just always won and has never lost season after season, year after year. Now, there's been teams that have had perfect seasons. I know, there's different football teams, and I don't think there's ever been a baseball season with a perfect team. But, there's been, but eventually it goes up and down. Eventually, you're going to lose. You just can't win everything all the time. It just doesn't work that way. People get old. Businesses change just because their leadership changed, their employee group, their demographic changed, everything. It just grows and ages, and we can all guarantee that there will be those changes, and there will be those losses, and there'll be those wins if you try really hard. But you got to work for the wins, but the losses will come real easy. And, well, they hit you hard, but they come real easy. And there's never been, as the saying goes, you win some, you lose some in business. Losses take down kings, CEOs, and in some cases, entire companies. So this, cannot be allowed in business. They don't allow losses. They have no choice, and they want to act like it's not a normal process of business, but at all costs. So the conundrum or the mystery for the leaders of our businesses and our corporations is to avoid this loss. But the fact is, loss is unavoidable, and companies are going to lose money. They're not always going to make the right decisions. Some make poor decisions time and time again. But that change becomes the catalyst, and business needs to change then they need to stay flexible, right? These businesses. And these are, I'm talking primarily about American businesses, but this can kind of go into any business anywhere. And so these big corporations, they go and they buy smaller companies. They sell parts of their own company that aren't doing well. Like I said, they fire employees, they outsource and what have you. I ask myself why. Why is this the only way? Why do the rich need to get richer and richer and richer day over day over day? And then the poor get poorer, if that's a word. I'm not advocating being a modern day Robin Hood, but maybe some limits need to be imposed. Capitalism is what it is, and the free marketers have their benefits. They do. But does a company need billions of dollars in the bank just sitting there and probably making them more and more money for what? The only thing I could come up with is for the CEOs, the board members, top people in the company like the CFOs, the CTOs, whatever they are, to buy another jet or another island or get some sort of another elite piece of real estate somewhere. That's it. That is it. So it's an endless struggle to just keep getting more and more and more money once you become a public company. And there's all kinds of things, but, on the other side of it, some companies will start, some of the big companies too, will start to create charities. And the charities, hardly any of that money gets to the actual cause. It becomes almost a tax shelter and, whatever they call it. Is this the right thing to do? Just because it's legal doesn't always make it right. There are a lot of companies that do the right thing. Don't get me wrong. They don't expand too far outside of a particular region because they care about the quality of their product and the core of what their company believes in. But maybe we need to go to a tax for everyone. Maybe a business or a personal tax that, everyone just pays the same, right? Hear me out. So we'll just call it tax. At the end of the day, businesses are taxed on profits made and money earned, right, from the items they sell. People pay a tax on what they earn. But now we need sales tax, federal tax, income tax, state tax, income tax, city tax, income tax, estate tax, tax and tax and tax. I mean, do we need all of that? I mean, it goes to the complication of things. People get so confused. They don't even pay attention and don't want to argue it because it's such a tedious and almost never-ending argument or looking into it. And they just say, we'll just go with the flow. We'll just pay a tax on, if you win something, you pay a tax on it, right? The person that probably already that gave it to you, you win a car from a dealership. Well, I shouldn't say a car from a dealership because that's a whole nother ball game, the automobile industry and how they finagle all the car dealerships and you can only get a car from an authorized dealership. And well, I'm not going to get into that. But if you win something from someone, that person already probably paid tax on it. But now, over a certain amount, you have to pay tax, especially on cash and things like that. You've got to pay tax on your prizes, income tax in some cases, depending on where you are. And I'm not an accountant and I'm not going to pretend to be. But, why are there so many taxes? The simple answer is a lot of politicians are holding their hands out for change, coins. And a lot of corporations and lobbyists and special interest groups are throwing money at each other, literally just throwing the money at each other. This huge cafeteria food fight that keeps everybody else looking in a different direction while they just sit on the corner and fill their pockets with the money. Our taxes. If the state of America today, oh boy, if this is the state of America today, I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but these big businesses run everything. And the politicians who make hardly anything are being paid off by these billion-dollar companies because, let's face it, government and politics doesn't pay well unless there's lobbyists and other companies that want to pay them to help further their interest, right? Oh, boy. This is tough. And the more I think about it, but I mean, this was the next chapter. But the more I think about it, and you can go on and on about it. If this is the state of America today, God help the future generations once the money printer runs out of ink. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am your host, Tooclevermafia, and this is the Tooclevermafia podcast. And joined by my producer, sound booth guy.
Hello.
You prefer sound booth guy?
Sound booth guy.
Okay, good. AJ, over in the sound booth. And all of you, my Mafians and new listeners as well. And this is going to be my final word segment. It's going to be the summary also of my book, and that we've been talking about today is the American slices, divide, conquer, repeat. I like the kind of a play on words there. But this is about chapter 4. We're going to kind of go over a little bit of information. Big city versus big town. And I've lived in a big city, the biggest in the world, I think, at one point. And, I've lived in a small town. I've watched my small town grow to a medium to big town. Kind of like my tech knowledge. It was low tech. Now I'm at like medium to high tech. Now I'll say medium tech, right? And then, there's high tech, which I'm not even I don't think I'll ever get to that point. But over the years, things have improved. More and more businesses have moved in, big box stores, all of your fancy ones, your Home Depot, your Lowe's, your Best Buys, and all your franchise restaurants, right? You got your Chili's, and you got all that stuff, Outback. You got all those things. You got your car dealerships, every fast food chain you could possibly think of. Not really many high-end restaurants as one would, I would like. When I say high-end, I mean not franchise, just mom-and-pop places that serve good food, quality food. Not much of that anymore, at least where I am. And, I often get asked, looking back, as I have a lot of years behind me, do I like living in a big city, or do I like living in a small town, or somewhere in between? And well, the big cities in America right now, if you look out the window, it's probably on fire. The big cities are burning, folks. And, crime is running rampant in the big cities. The gutters are filled with, unfortunately, poor and homeless people just trying to survive. They've been put out of their homes. They can't afford to live. They've lost their jobs for one reason or another. And the government doesn't have the resources or the will to help them, to help these folks. They bunch them all up. It's kind of like they scoop them all up off the curb and they put them in different places. And it's not helping these people. It's not giving them what they need to let them move forward, on their own. Just giving them a little lift, just pick them up and help them a little nudge forward and let them go. It's kind of like when you're learning a bicycle. Someone's holding onto your bicycle seat and then they let it go and you can learn to balance on your own. Well, that's what these folks need. They need someone to grab the back of their seat, lift them up, help them until they can get their balance, for a short distance, and then let them go and be successful and ride that bike that we call life. Now, in the big towns, you don't see, or should I say little towns, medium, big towns, you really don't see homeless people regularly. And if you happen across, one or more of them, you likely have heard stories from other people in your town or town folk that their story, you assume why they were homeless. We hear stories that, they just went crazy and, they have a home, but they prefer to live on the streets. And I've even heard stories about a rich homeless person who was punishing themselves for being rich by living on the streets. Now, whether this is resulting from mental illness or they really are punishing themselves for living on the street, you don't see a lot of that, in the cities, the big cities. A lot of those homeless people are just nameless, faceless people. Maybe you pass them every day going to work and you drop some change in their cup and whatnot, but you don't know their story. And the reality is, we probably don't know any of these individual stories until we actually try to get to know them, right? And try to help them and find out what the problems are and try to help other human beings. But the big cities, they move fast. The big cities have a lot of traffic. So do the small cities and the medium cities, I guess, right? And it always seems brighter though when you're in a big town as opposed to a big city. A big city always seemed to me a little bit cooler, filled with a lot more shadows, probably from the skyscrapers and whatnot. And the big cities to me have always felt dirty. And they felt dirtier when I left them and went back. That's when they really are like, whoa, what happened? What's all this trash on the street when it's always probably been there, right? And the big city has that smell, that smell that you don't smell in the medium-sized towns and the big, especially if you head down into a subway, you know what I'm talking about. With all the buses and the taxis in the city, you don't need a car though, for the most part. In a lot of big cities, you don't need a car. And if you did have one, you probably couldn't find a spot to park it in, at least in the cities that I've been to. And I've been from one coast to the other and hit most of them. And if you fit in a big city, you can walk to most places. And it would be hard to find, like I said, it would be hard to find a parking spot anyway. And if it did, it'd probably cost you an arm and a leg. More than you were making if you were going to work in most cases. So, I mean, everybody has their own requirements for where they want to live and what they enjoy and the pace of their lifestyle and why, and basically just what they're comfortable with. You know, when I was younger, I liked the big cities. I thought it was fun. It was fast paced. I remembered when I was back in grade school, living in a big city, I would just jump on a city bus, public transit, and I would go up, down, downtown, back again, with not a care in the world, with my bus pass. And I would, no older than, oh boy, I must have been 10, 11, who knows? Somewhere around there. I don't remember. And now that I'm older, though, I do prefer kind of a medium to big sized town as opposed to the big city because I'm not looking for that fast paced stuff. I have a simple car. I've got a place to park it free. I enjoy trees and birds and parks that have always been parks. No more subways and turnstiles and bars that you can't get past unless you swipe your card to pay the fare to get on the subway. One day, I think, as I get older, I may even want to move to a smaller town, maybe a farm with a couple of chickens and get up in the morning, sit in a rocking chair with the cliche and have my cup of coffee and just watch the sunrise. And by the end of the day, I'll just be able to watch the sunset. Who knows? Either way, we all need to make sure we're being kind to one another. And everybody's got in America has their own type of American slice that they call their own. Everybody likes their American slice just a little bit differently than the next, which is what makes us so great. So I'm going to go watch the sunset, and I am Tooclevermafia, and that is all I have to say about that. Until next time, my friends, take care for now. Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. I bet you thought you were done with me. Well, not just yet. I'm Tooclevermafia, and this is the Tooclevermafia podcast. And if you like the podcast that we produce for you, please, it helps us out tremendously if you like and subscribe to the podcast on the podcast service that you're listening to. So if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, like it. If you're listening to us on Google Podcast, Spotify, like it. Wherever you're listening to us, it really does help us out. And you can find us everywhere at Tooclevermafia. That's TOO Clever Mafia on all the social media platforms. And check out our website, www.tooclevermafia.com. Over there, you can click. We have a link tree set up on there, so you can listen to us anywhere and any way you want. Just click on the link tree link on our website. Boom, you're there. But again, we really do appreciate you listening. And one last thing from all of us here at the Tooclevermafia podcast, we wish everyone a happy, healthy, and safe New Year and a wonderful holiday season with all of your friends, family, loved ones, and enjoy your time off from work. But you need to make sure you're getting ready for a fabulous season 2, with which we got so many guests planned and we have so many new things in store. So don't miss out. Go back, catch up on our old podcast episodes, and get ready for a unbelievable 2021. And I'm Tooclevermafia. That's all I have to say about that.